Okay, we're gonna start off by putting our name in the triangle that has been pre-cut for you. We're gonna first put our regular information on the back, first and last name, room number, and your grade level, and then flip it to the front. So this is going to be the bottom of your name, so this side here. I'm gonna write Dean, and then I'll show you one that's a little bit longer. So when we do our bubble or block letter style name, you do need to have the letter touch the top and the bottom of that triangle. So if this is the top of my E, and then my A is going to touch the E as well. So I'm trying to fill side to side as well as top to bottom in that triangle. That looks a little off, so I'm going to fix that. I want it to be slanted here and then straight here. Okay, so once you have done that part, you want to come and check with the teacher. And we're looking to see, did you touch the top and bottom? Did you go side to side with your whole name? So I'll do a bigger name in case you have a longer name so you know how to do that. So if my name was Charlotte, I would like to write out the name regular first. T-T-E. So if I write it regular, then I can kind of have an idea of space. Then I can go in and do those sort of bubble style letters or block, whichever you choose. So then I kind of know where they have to go. So if you notice on this one, the only difference is I'm having to make the letters thinner than when I did Dean, because Dean was so much shorter. So you can do your first or your last name, but it has to be one of those names, not your nickname, not your middle name. So you can see on some parts I'm not doing the bottom of the letter necessarily. The bottom of the paper becomes the bottom of the letter. So here it's getting kind of tight. Just want to make sure I still fit those in so I can still see that letter. Okay, so there's a really long name, and you can see that I just made the letter skinnier than I did with Dean. So that is how you would do that. All right, now the next step is to trace your name with the fine point Sharpie. So that is the thicker one. I just have a magazine here. You will use your boards to cover the table. I'm gonna change how I have this. I don't like the E like that, so I just changed that line there. Okay, now we're going to get the square paper that has already been pre-cut for you. In this case, this one is 8 by 8. And your written directions also go through some of this. But first we're going to fold it side to side. So make sure you line up your corners on both sides and then crease that. And then we're going to fold it again the other direction, lining up your corners before you crease it. And then if you'll open that up, you should have that folded plus sign on there. Then we're going to take corner to corner, so that goes this direction. Crease it once you have the corners lined up, open it, and then do that the other direction as well. So when you open it, you should have the plus sign as well as an X fold. That means you did fold that correctly. Okay, so now we're ready to start using this triangle name with the folded paper. So this bottom part of your name is going to go along this line to start. So this pencil line there that I can kind of lightly draw. So what I'm doing is I'm putting that on the back, and I'm going to line that up in that triangle, so it should match triangles. So once I get it in place, I'm going to hold it nice and still, and you should be able to see the Sharpie through the paper, and you're tracing that name that you just did. Now, I'm leaving these open at the bottom, and I'll show you why as we get farther along. You can see that it has a purpose for your design. Okay, now that I have one, the next step then is to flip it the other direction. So if it was this way, for this one, I'm gonna flip it and trace it this direction. So I flipped it and then I'm gonna slide it under so I have it in the right place. Make sure it's lined up before you start tracing. So take your time to check that it is lined up. And another thing you can do is making sure that this D is touching this D. And so it should look like a mirror image if you flipped it correctly. So you can see this E turns into this E the other way. And then this A touches the bottom of this A. And this is where you can touch these lines together, connecting them. So this makes its own little triangle there. Okay, so I turned my paper a little bit to start working on this corner. And for this one, I'm going to be tracing it this direction underneath this triangle space. So I'm going to make sure it's lined up again before I begin tracing. It's a little off. So I'm trying to have these tips of these A's and N's touch because they should if it's in the right place. So you can see kind of here this way, these make a different shape, which is why now you see why I left those tops and bottoms of the letters open, because they create a new shape. So if you haven't guessed yet, the next step is then again to flip it over and then stick it under the paper there and trace it. So this image will repeat in all four corners basically. Okay, now I've finished this pretty much. What I want you to do now though is go and look at every fold space and make sure things are connecting from one to the next box. If not, go ahead and do that. Otherwise, when you go to Sharpie, you're gonna be having to do that then. So if you kind of clean that up now and make sure things connect from one box to the next, or I should say triangle. And now if you look at this, it definitely looks more abstract. You may not see much of the letters, especially in here I don't see the N like I used to. They sort of meld together to become a little bit more abstract, and it has that radial balanced look to it.